What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of the Wrestling Republic Daily Broadcast. It's been one hell of a week for us as a company so far. We are all, I think, specifically back to where we came from at this point. Everybody's traveled home. It's Thursday, April 6th. We had an explosive Dynamite this week. I've got two special guests with me, though. Two of my buddies from high school, from way back. And I'm going to introduce them. First, we're going to toss it right over to Lanse Macke. How are you today, my friend? I haven't seen you since ROH this weekend.
What's up, Clark? Good to see you, man. Yeah, ROH was incredible, man. It was such a fun time together, and stoked to be here with you.
Absolutely, dude. It's good to have you, and we'll toss it to Carter Crisp up next. Also, how have you been? Feeling good?
Feeling good, man. We recovered from Mania. It was the best weekend ever, I have to say. It was so awesome seeing so many little promotions and big promotions all in one weekend, all in Southern California, man. I'm hyped. I feel like wrestling's in a great place right now.
Absolutely. I'm with you. And so we'll be cruising along today. We got a fun list of topics, easy list of topics too. AEW Dynamite last night, it was explosive. We had the big announcement. We had the MJF Day promo, some singing involved. He went full Sinatra at one point, I believe. And then
off pitch.
Yeah, exactly. And then from there, even more interesting, we had Jay White. So we'll get into all of that.
Oh, yeah.
And then even Mania weekend, ROH and everything else along the way. But strap in for 45 minutes this daily broadcast. Let's get started right out of the gates, boys. With the big announcement. Wembley Stadium, we know capacity is 90,000, right? We know capacity is 90. Will they fill 90? I want to get you guys' thoughts. I'm going to toss it to you first, Mackie, and then I'm going to toss it to Carter. But what do you think is a realistic number? And especially with like stage structure, can they do that? Can they fill 90? I don't think so. But maybe 70? I don't know. What are your thoughts, Mackie?
I don't know, man. I mean, it's a bold move. I love it for the company. Wembley it's a world-class stadium. It's held like 1 million different events from all across the world, all different styles. And I think it's a great fit and can really help move, the company forward. As for the 90,000, I mean, that would obviously be pushing it when Mania single days were about 81,000 this past weekend. I think if you were sniffing, 40, 50,000, you'd be pretty stoked about it. But, with the amount of time to promote and how big wrestling is across the pond, you never know. And would love to see this thing be huge and be a lot of fun this summer.
Absolutely. And I love that. I love what you said there too about the fact that it's across the pond. I mean, we haven't seen any real wrestling event at Wembley since 92 SummerSlam. And it's one of those things, if they can fill, like you said, 40 or 50,000, that's a game changer. And with the stage, it's not gonna look weird on television. There's been some people talking about that. But Carter, I want to get your thoughts too on that. What do you think about AEW to Wembley?
Yeah, I think they're going to make it look good on TV. I don't think they're going to sell it out. I think they might have 50, 60,000 fans, but close to the ring, it's going to be full. They're going to make it look good. I think this is a classic case of Tony Khan just kind of punching up and just he built AEW from nothing. So this is another example of him innovating, him punching up, trying to, it's not fake it till you make it, but it's kind of the same idea. I mean, he knows what he's doing. He did the same thing with the Jaguars. He's growing a business, and this is, even if he doesn't fill it up, I think it's a big. We're talking about it. The fact that we're talking about it's a big deal. Great for marketing. Makes him look big. It's a great time, considering the wrestling world and the competition he's dealing with. So I think it just shows you how much of a genius Tony Khan is.
No question. And it's fascinating. Obviously we had the big sale this week, guys. We were all involved with that. We were all there this weekend, and it's funny. Like the news was coming along. I feel like a mile a minute. as we were approaching like Raw, which is funny, right? You think the end of Mania weekend is the end of Mania weekend. Like that's not how it works, unfortunately. And with the sale and the Monday Night Raw after, it's one of those things where we're in a position that we haven't been in a long time. It's fascinating and it's fun. So by the way, we've got some comments here from the fans. We got Blake Blackridge.
Thank you, Blake. That's my jiu-jitsu
Blake,
boy.
monster shout out,
Blake.
Blake. Thank you so much.
Blake the blue belt.
This one's actually my mama, Blake the blue belt. I love that, by the way.
Thank you, Blake. Appreciate it.
That's my mama commented as well. But yeah, I think personally the Wembley show is it's about as good stadium wise as AEW could do, considering the wrestling fever we've got over the pond or across the pond, as you said, Carter. And then, like you said, Mackie, it's not necessarily about filling 90,000, but 40, 50, maybe 60, whatever it is. Given the stage, given the setup, all of that is good enough. And I think it's one of those situations where they can set this up almost like a celebration of wrestling. And I don't think the card matters as much as people are concerned about. I don't know necessarily that it matters how strong the card is. It will be strong. They're gonna stack it. It's at a stadium.
Clark,
but
a lot of British boxing, how kind of crazy their fans are. Like British combat sports fans it's like they're soccer fans. They're really loud. So
no question that fan base. I mean, we see it in the UFC all the time, right? At the O2, what they've done. Mackie, I mean, you can speak on that, as well, right? As far as
I mean, to me, like you said, the card's going to be there, the wrestling's going to be there. It's going to be, can they create the buzz in London, in the big city, and is it going to be a world-class event as far as the aesthetics, the pyrotechnics, all of the stuff there? As long as they have that, where it will be great on TV, it'll be great on the stream, but obviously in person as well. I mean, that to me is the big thing. And they've probably been planning this for a while. The announcement was last night, and they got a lot of time to really build this thing up.
Absolutely, especially between now and August, plenty of time. I think it's one of those things where it'd be interesting. I wonder if they make a bunch of tickets available, and if it sells out quick enough, then they open up other parts of the stadium too, right? To your point about they have enough time is the key, I think. It's been in the works for a while, but getting the announcement out was brilliant, right? When they did too, and the timing of a little bit of negative news on the WWE side is convenient when it comes to Vince McMahon and Raw, right? But let's run through the card real quick, and then we'll get into more Mania weekend stuff and whatnot. So let's start with the opener. Absolute Ricky Starks versus Juice Robinson. Juice Robinson, former member of the Bullet Club. Get those two sweets up high, no doubt. And I guess maybe technically Juice might still technically be a current member. Sorry, if we had facts and info, they'd be on that. But but he's on an airplane. So anyway, Juice, allegedly a former or current member of the Bullet Club. I'm kidding. No, but gets the win because of a debuting Jay White. We have the biggest free agent in professional wrestling. There's a lot of rumors about Jay White's going to WWE. He's the perfect worker for WWE. He's the perfect age, all of that. During the sale, Fightful Select reported, I believe it was Sean Ross Sapp exclusively, that Vince and the higher-ups didn't quite communicate well enough during the Jay White negotiation, and AEW stole him, basically. Got him.
This is where AEW has a much better advantage over WWE, just their openness to work with other promotions, other wrestlers, just the wrestling intelligence in the front office there. It's just leagues ahead. And Triple H is one of the best in the business, but he has his farm. He doesn't know the indies that well just because of the nature of the WWE. So this was a huge pickup for AEW, and it's going to be really interesting moving forward if they can take some of that market share of the WWE.
Absolutely. I think so too. And I think internationally, because Jay's so popular, he's Australian, he's Australian, and then his history in Japan, his connection to the elite, all of that. it's a big splash. It's a big get. How do you feel about it, Mackie?
I mean, it's a huge get, and kind of like what Carter said, New Japan wrestling is huge. It's some of my favorite style of wrestling to see live and just in general. And as you said, an international wrestler coming from a place like Japan, you're going to bring more international flavor to it, more international fans, and Japanese sports fans, whether it's baseball or it's wrestling. I mean, they're going to follow their stars no matter where.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a great point too. And we saw with the World Baseball Classic lately, right? What was it? The number was astronomical.
It was 49%, I think, of Japanese households watched like the last four Team Japan games, which is insane. That's a 40 share.
It's absolutely fascinating. It's one of those things that you just don't see that in television these days, like period. Across the board, no matter what it is. And to your point, Jay White was as over as anybody in New Japan. That fan base follows him over. That's just another reason it's as big of a get as it is for AEW. But the match itself, I mean, I don't think we need to go too deep into that match. It was what it was. I personally feel a little bad for Ricky just because I think he's so over currently. And he's done so well on that side, but to debut to have Jay White debut and then have a feud with him on the back end, it's going to work out for Starks as well. And I don't have an issue with that per se, but let's move along to the Trios Championship match. Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends versus the House of Black. And
we love that match.
On this one, I'm going to toss it to Carter first because I know about the Brody King connection.
We know Brody. Me and Lance used to go to hardcore shows seeing Brody King's old bands. I remember I saw his band called Sleepwalkers, and it was the nicest joke anyone's ever done to me. But he's the man. I mean, I love his wrestling style too. As a fan of strong style Japanese New Japan wrestling. I mean, the fact that we saw a guy go from the hardcore scene to wrestling Minoru Suzuki in Japan is awesome. And this match was a great mix of styles. It was hard hitting, but it was still high flying. It was just, I loved watching it. It's just beautiful wrestling. 6 giants just wrecking each other, front flips. Just loved it.
I'm so with you that, and I love what you said there too. And I'm tossing it to you right now, Mackie. But I mean, it's so funny to have a 7-footer that's that athletic, that like escaped professional wrestling for 15 years. Somehow he wasn't found.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we just now know about Brody King? Not just now, like not that he's not been relevant for a while now, but man, what a talent. I'm with you. And Mackie, you were at those shows too. How did you feel about it?
Oh man. I mean, he was a madman in the pit. Carter and I saw him at so many different shows, but like a true hardcore kid that now he's bringing it over to the wrestling world in his hardcore style, within Ring of Honor for a while on the independent circuit. And, he's been in AEW just killing it. And I loved the match because there was so much back and forth, but it was such a hard hitting style. And of course, Brody King being an ode to the late great Bruiser Brody, I think is just incredible, and I think he does it justice. And I was blown away by it, and that was probably my favorite match of the night. It was definitely up there. So here's to you, Brody.
That is a brilliant shout too on Bruiser Brody too. I'm a huge Bruiser Brody fan myself, and I mean, and stylistically the similarities are, it's easy to make that connection, and I love, and even Brody Lee, right? Passed away, rest in peace. I think it was very cool of AEW to allow Brody King to keep the Brody name because it is in honor of Bruiser as well. I think it's in honor of Brody Lee as much as anything too. That's one of my favorite things about that signing and everything, and the way the House of Black has turned out is delightful. They got that right.
Yeah.
Right. They got that right.
Example of AEW, just you buy Ring of Honor and then you get their talent, and Brody's on the roster. Now Brody's on TBS,
It's interesting because, they really only acquired the tape library, but I do think it's telling that most of the talent resigned, because when they did make the acquisition, it was only really the tape library and all of the trademarks and all of those rights. The talent has already been released, but I think it's, like I said, not to repeat myself again, but just incredibly telling that almost all of the relevant talent from ROH came back.
Mhm.
And that's a
Huge.
big deal. That's important. No
Yeah.
question. Let's move on to the next one. As much as I love talking House of Black. We've got, well, also I will, before we move on, mention La Facción Ingobernables. That was my best Spanish. Did make their presence felt during the match, as we saw. And it's interesting. I almost, because of Dragon Lee's WWE signing and
Mhm.
his affiliation with it's Rush's brother, I found it kind of funny that their presence during this match was necessary, because it might have been a little bit of a, because Dragon Lee made his debut last night on NXT.
Oh, but
Or
why
not
not?
debut, I believe it was his second match, but either way, that's Rush's younger brother. And I thought it's kind of funny that they were featured on TV even though they weren't booked in a match. Timing wise, makes sense. That one adds up. Yeah. Oh, okay. But
Funny.
let's move on to the next one, which is the women's title match. And I think we're kind of all in agreement on this. We talked about this pre-show a little bit. They showed out. This was better than expected by
Mhm.
quite a bit. Toss it to you, Mackie, first. What did you think about Rio, the original women's champion in AEW? She took Jamie to the brink.
Yeah, I mean, she did. I mean, it shows that she still got it. And it really was a great match. I think, as you said, even though it was a title match, I think it was kind of a surprise of the night. And like you were saying before, what we were talking about kind of off camera was, the way women's wrestling is across every company, including AEW, it's in such a great place. And that showed, and very much enjoyed it. And honestly was surprised, like you said, the first ever AEW Women's Champion, and then she's coming in here and she's able to take it all the way to the end. I think that was incredible.
No question. And taking them to the brink like that, like it was one of those things where we've seen both Hayter and Rio perform outstanding, bell to bell, but it was going in. It felt like one of those matches that was kind of like there's not like a true build. There's not like a reason, but I'm wondering if it can't become a long-term rivalry myself, right? That was kind of my thoughts. Carter, I want to get yours as well before we move on to the next match, but yeah.
The Hater looked great. I love what they're doing with her and Britt Baker. I was listening to Britt Baker last night on Busted Open. Really tough for her to be out of the ring, but I mean, the fact that she's supporting her old friend and someone she had so many matches with is awesome. And yeah, it was really awesome. Again, technical Japanese style grappling out of Riho, amazing. I just hope they don't do to her what the WWE is doing to Asuka. I hate to say that, but I hope they feature her properly. I don't think they're going to give her the belt, but I hope they can kind of, give a good Japanese women's wrestler the proper recognition she deserves, because it would be a shame to squander that talent. But AEW does a much better job with featuring international talent, I think.
I agree with that too. I think with her and her Hikaru Shida have really been featured well, and that's no knock on Asuka. I think Asuka's as good of a talent as there is in the industry.
Yeah.
But I think you guys both made awesome points there, especially like given the popularity in Japan, as we discussed earlier. It makes no sense to keep Riho out of the world title picture. She's just not. She's simply not a mid card talent on the women's side. Athletically speaking, she's as good as anybody in the game. And yeah, I thought last night was much deserved. Shida gets a lot of the limelight because of her run. And that's no knock on her. Shida's excellent. She's as good as anybody. But yeah, Rio getting her shine even in a loss to Hayter was outstanding. But now let's move on to the biggest heel in the game. Maxwell Jacob Friedman. And yesterday was MJF Day. It was hysterical.
Yeah.
It was hysterical. It was simply put, it was freaking funny. There was not much that you can knock about it. He's doing a Sinatra impression on Dynamite with the title. He's got like the key to the city, the whole nine. I want to get both of you. Who wants to go first? on this one. You tell me this time. I'm the host, remember? I'm kidding. No, but
Either way, Lance,
who
I mean,
wants to go first? You
I-
ready, Carter? Okay, good. Mackie,
I'll go.
then you'll take us home on this one. How'd you feel about MJF?
When we were at AEW at the forum out here, I was amazed that that guy got so many pro wrestling fans to wear Burberry scarves. Like, he is one of the best personalities in pro wrestling right now. He's one of the best promo cutters. He is. I'll say this. This is a little aggressive. He is almost on the same level as Dusty Rhodes in terms of talking and cutting promos. The guy is a stud. And MJF Day was hilarious. It should be a national holiday, not just in Long Island. I want him to give him the keys to the city here, because he's just such a good talker. And like this is what makes pro wrestling what it is. It's the in-ring action, but it's also the ability to talk outside of the ring. And MJF is, simply put, one of the best in the business right now.
Oh, yeah, you're spot on there too. It's the storytelling is off the charts,
Mm-hmm.
the entertainment level. But Mackie, I got to get your thoughts too.
Oh.
How are you feeling about it?
Oh, I mean, it should be a national holiday. I mean, that was incredible, especially in the hometown. You know, you're talking about that. He had the whole crowd eating out of the palm of his hand, which is what he's so special at. He's unbelievable at cutting promos. It's an unbelievable character. He's so great, again, at controlling the crowd. I loved every part of it. Of course, you know, he might be a little tone deaf when it comes to his singing, but I thought that was an incredible piece as well, kind of being a little cruder to the whole crowd. But I absolutely loved it. And to echo what Carter said, I think he's one of the best in the business as far as promos go across every platform. He's so strong. I loved it.
I'm 100% with you, and I'm gonna go right here and do the solo screen on me for a second, because I'm gonna go a step further than Dusty Carter. I loved when you said that, but I think he's approaching the same planet as Flair. I did just go to Disneyland the other day and see the Star Wars thing. So yeah, like I think he's approaching the same planet as Flair. As far as his microphone work, it's outstanding. I thought it was brilliant that he went 60 minutes with Danielson. I knew he could. The way that he's kind of discussed it across the board, of course he could go 60 minutes. He's now done that. He continues to deliver week in and week out. I think he is the most valuable heel currently working in professional wrestling at any company, WWE, AEW, New Japan, any of them. I believe that, personally speaking, I believe there's not a more valuable talent than Maxwell Jacob Friedman. As much as it pains me to say that, I'm kidding. No, I love the guy. As a heel, he's that good. He doesn't miss, you know. And at the end of the day, that bidding war of 24 is just getting run up by the week. That price tag is getting run up by the minute. And it's just going to be outstanding to see how he navigates it. And so before we move on to the next match, I'm actually going to toss it back to you guys both. I want your thoughts on how are they going to navigate MJF carrying the belts with only so many months till January 1st of 24. Do you guys believe that there's even somebody who it would make sense for MJF to drop the belt to? Or if it's one of those things where Tony's just got to re-sign him before the first. Finish the negotiation. I'm going to go to you first, Mackie.
No, I mean, I don't think he drops the title, but I can't see anybody that would be able to take him at this point. You never know. They're bringing in new talent all the time. I mean, maybe there's some up-and-comer that comes in and it's the perfect crime, but I think you have to do everything in your power to bring him back. Open up the wallet, see what you're going to be able to do. I mean, he's so important to the sport, to all professional wrestling, but especially to this company. And I think Tony's got to make the move, pull the trigger, make sure that he's locked in.
Absolutely. Carter, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, MJF to AEW is like the equivalent to Stone Cold or The Rock to WWE in the Attitude Era. Like, it would be crazy to let that guy walk away. So I think, and Tony's smart. He's a good competitor. And I don't think the WWE's, I love the WWE. I'm a WWE just a guy. It's my favorite promotion. But that being said, I don't know if they're going to be swift enough to go after MJF hard. That being said, if AEW loses MJF, to have him lose the titles poorly, that's going to hurt the company. So I think they have to treat him well, knowing how much people love this guy.
For sure. Yeah, that's just one of those talents you just can't lose. It's not, it's not a choice. I'm with you both on that. And yeah, you got to open up that checkbook for MJF. He can't.
100%.
Now with Vince though back in power, it's even more interesting. Not to get fully into that one, but I mean, that might have been in a weird way a godsend, because I don't know, given Vince's priorities creatively, if MJF, the character, actually can operate inside of a PG space that way, to the same level of effectiveness. And while I think the negotiation isn't as affected by that as just his future projection, he can't say fuck on like we can on this show.
You can't call his teacher word.
On WWE, and he does it when he does, and it's fun. Okay, by the way, we got more comments from Blake. We got Carter, true fan shirt. Lance, beard is on point. Clark, great questions and hosting. Thank you so much for the shout, my friend.
Thank you for the support.
You've always got you. You're the best. Much appreciated. Like and subscribe if you can. But yeah, I mean, I think we've touched on enough MJF. Let's move right along into the Blackpool Combat. Wait, did I? Hang on, no, yeah, it's Blackpool Combat Club, in a squash. So we're actually gonna ditch that one too. The Blackpool Combat Club had a squash match, and then essentially Bryan Danielson cut a big promo. Hangman Page made a run in. Once he did, he was beaten down by the rest of the Combat Club, and Danielson handled the mic work from there. It was a fine segment, but unless you guys got something real special to talk about it, it was essentially a squash match combined with the Blackpool Combat Club's definitively heels. I think that one's pretty buttoned up, right, for us as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the main event of the evening, an important main event, no less. Tag team championships. We saw a title change. Not to bury the lead, but FTR, who nobody on this podcast said this, but a lot of people, I'm not gonna name any names, but really had their money on FTR to WWE. That's not exactly how it worked out. Not only that, they're the champs, and they re-signed multi-year deal. Dax Hardwood cleared it up on Twitter. Pretty succinct. Said the WWE schedule takes me away from my family. That's simple. That's cut and dry.
Yep.
That wasn't gonna happen. I personally, this is as the host, personal opinion here. I believe that FTR is the best tag team in the world. I believe they have been for a long time. They're old school. The fact that we talked about them the entire time they were off screen was telling to me. That was amazing. I think they deserve the belts in the long run. I think it's funny that, it happened on screen where they win the titles the way they did. But the whole process, they're old school pro wrestlers. They honor kayfabe, and they're once again the tag team champions of a major organization, right? We saw them drop 3 world titles last year. They dropped the AAA belts, they dropped the New Japan belts, and the Ring of Honor belts as well to the Briscoes. Rest in peace, Jay Briscoe. But absolutely yes. But we got a bunch of Catholic school kids. But but at the end of the day, it was the right call, in my opinion. I'm going to toss it to you guys. What were your thoughts on this main event? I'm going to send it to you first, Mackie, and then we'll go Carter. How do you feel about FTR taking it off the Guns?
I mean, it was awesome. It was back and forth. I kept thinking it's staying with the Guns. It's going to go over to FTR. It kept going back and forth, and the finish was incredible. I do want to talk about the entrance with the 50 Cent song "Walking Out" in New York. By the way, Many Men is one of the greatest albums of all time, and I think that needs to be said on this podcast. So that was incredible. So from start to finish, I mean, it was electric. You can't beat something like that, and I thought it was an incredible finish there.
Absolutely, I'm so with you, and I got to shout out Robert Chaos, my good buddy, host of Tickets to the Table. Sorry, that was bad. I almost biffed that. Host of Tickets to the Table, the man, the myth, the legend. Huge Many Men song. We were chatting earlier today or whatever, and I go, I would run through a wall for that song, and he goes, me too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah, it is.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
so like it's one of 50's absolute best. But I'm gonna toss to you now, Carter. What do you think about FTR taking the belts?
They'll be great champs as long as I want to keep them champs for. I mean, it's that same old school, hard hitting, strong style wrestling that we were talking about earlier with Brody King. I think some of those guys, they definitely trained at the LA dojo too. So these guys are, like you said, old school wrestlers. It's related to catch wrestling. They're going to be good. They're going to be good champs as long as they want to keep them. I wasn't aware that they were going to go to the WWE. That's really interesting. But if he's saying what he said, it sounds like he's at least talking to them. But I mean, the AEW, the locker room environment seems to be great. It seems like it's a great company for wrestlers who love wrestling to work at, and that's what FTR is. So, I mean, too bad to see the Guns lose it, but FTR, like you said, one of the best tag teams.
Absolutely.
Outside of WWE.
And I find it fascinating too, to your point, Carter, about the locker room. Outside of the buzz, the I would call it dirt sheet buzz about the brawl out, they call it now, Punk and the Elite.
Yeah.
We saw what happened with Danhausen and the comic today. Punk is recovering from a torn tricep. He's very close friends with FTR. Dax Harwood on his podcast has discussed that situation. And I think you made a great point about the AEW locker room. As much as it's been reported, and not to recklessly speculate here, but as much as it's been reported that, there's been drama, and I mean, that's every business in the world, right? Yep. It's competitive. And at the end of the day, it does seem like one of those places where it's power, for lack of a better term, power to the people.
Yeah.
Let the creators create at the end of the day. And yeah, that's one of the big, I don't want to say advantages, because financially speaking, given the Endeavor deal that we just saw this week, you can't really say an advantage on a $21 billion business deal. But I would say one of the big avenues that AEW can really lean into is pushing that it's, the creators are creating, and power to the performers per se, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest things. The CM Punk thing, we don't want to get overboard here because of time, but that's going to be it. If we hear Cult of Personality in an AEW arena the next year, well, now we're talking again. That'll be interesting. And it'll be fun to see. And I will, before we get into this weekend and ROH and other stuff, I do have to mention, I loved the finish for FTR. That's an Owen Hart finish, the double roll up. That's some Owen booked himself. And speaking of rest in peace, Owen, absolute legend, absolutely. And that was cool. Shatter Machine would have been great, or Big Rig. I'm sorry, after Brody Lee, now would have been amazing too. But the double roll up was, I thought, those guys are brilliant. And that was, I think, just for the hardcore fans. It doesn't necessarily matter how the finish was per se, but that was to pop the people that know, like, oh yeah, that's the old Owen finish, and I thought that was brilliant for sure. But let's talk about one thing we haven't talked about is Commander appeared on the show. So we were standing on the concourse together, drinking a few daddy sodas.
Sodas.
Yeah, a couple of father sodas. Sharing them, cheersing them along the way. And we watched, I think you guys met up with me a little bit midway through Commander and Vikingo. Excellent match, right?
Yep.
And so then we get Commander on AEW TV for the first time this week. And he walks the ropes 4 times and then gets clipped by Sammy. I thought that night personally that these two are in business. It was interesting. After last night's match, as impressive as he was athletically, I just didn't quite feel the same way about Commander as I did before. Did you guys have anything that you saw in Commander that was different, or is it that Vikingo's that good and maybe Sammy wasn't as able to work with him?
I mean, every time I see Commander walk the ropes on Instagram, I'm always sharing it. It's just, I like watching it. I know I'm in the minority. I think it's the most fun thing to do. I think if it's cool, as many times as you could see it, it's awesome. But that's just me. I know some people like their wrestling moves to be a little more tasteful, like if you're going to do your finishing move, do it once. But I mean, if he has the ability to do something that's that difficult to do and he could do it 4 times in a match, I think it's I'm all for it, but I'm in the minority here. I know that's a little bit overkill. I love, I love strong style wrestling, but I also love crazy lucha where guys are flying off the ropes, doing double backflips and frog splashes. And so I don't know.
I actually really love, and I'm going to toss it to you, Mackie, in just a second here, but like, I really love what you said there about the different styles. And I'm similar in same regard. I really like. I don't think wrestling cards need to be one trick ponies. A little bit of everything, to see a lucha style match on top of a excellent tag team match, on top of an excellent, right? Like, I really do love the cross style, the strong style, all of it. And I think wrestling fans run into trouble is sometimes the taste gets too specific. I want to see one thing, and it's like, that's not, personally speaking, that's just not the way to enjoy professional wrestling. Like, I'm not.
Agreed.
I don't give, and I'll curse on the show. I don't give a shit about Logan Paul, but I loved him at WrestleMania, right? Yeah. And so it's like, get over yourself at the end of the day. Stylistically speaking, but Mackie, I want to get your thoughts too. How do you feel about this one?
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that, man. I mean, it gets so stale if it's the same exact style over and over again, or it's two wrestlers going at it with too similar of a style sometimes. But having that clash in the ring, especially, or overall as a company, I think is really important. And as a wrestling fan, that's what I like. I like all the different styles. I like all the different promotions that go on, and this match alone. The athleticism of Commander, I mean, it's incredible. It's through the roof. And he showed it, doing that move so many times, but, does it end up being the detriment to him in this match if you're going to lose by doing that? So I think that's something that needs to be said is this move now going to become stale because it is that you are that athletic and you are that incredible at it. And it's so impressive to see live, but if you're doing it so much that you're losing from it, I mean, maybe it's time to find something else or get creative with something, maybe with the same move, but throwing in another wrinkle, keep your opponents on their toes. But I mean, I enjoyed it. And also Sammy is so hateable. So
I'm so with you on that. I'm so with you on all of that.
Sammy?
Oh yeah, go right ahead.
Sammy is the Ryan Garcia of professional wrestling. And for those of you who know who Ryan Garcia
is, if you're a boxing fan, he is a little bit. Yeah, he's the internet ultimate sensation.
Yeah.
Now I will say it didn't help that he proposed to Pam on live TV and then very quickly was dating Ty Mello. That didn't help. And Ty Mello, Pam is a beautiful woman, but Ty Mello's like she's on kind of another planet. I guess I could say that on air.
Oh yeah.
And that wasn't exactly the greatest look for Sammy. I think that's a contributing factor without question.
No, he's annoying. He just is. He's an amazing wrestler though, super athletic. But it's like Ryan Garcia. I just want to see Tank knock him out. Sammy. I love watching him. I mean, in the ladder match when we went to the Forum, he was amazing. I mean,
outstanding,
incredible. But I mean, same thing with Tay. They're very, it's that lucha libre style, high flying, super athletic, but the guy can't talk. This is an MMA. You have to be able to talk.
It is weird to me too because he has charisma. I feel like in clips, but if you hand him the stick for a long period of time, to your point, I think that's where he runs into trouble. I think he actually gets too much credit for his promo ability at times. It's like it's good, but there's a reason that he's still stuck as Jericho's understudy in the JAS. There's a reason they've booked it that way, and I think Chris does an amazing job of checking him and making sure he does not what he's supposed to do, but like it comes across as entertaining as possible because his talent level is undeniable. But just execution from time to time, we can run ourselves into trouble.
He needs to go to the MJF School of Broadcasting.
There you go. And then Mackie, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I don't think he's a heel, but he doesn't fit, like his promos aren't there, in my opinion. I don't love his voice. I don't love the way he carries himself, obviously. Not a huge fan in that sense, but he is an incredible wrestler. And if he can put it all together, if he adds that promo element, I think in this company and just in professional wrestling across the board, he could be a huge name.
Awesome. I think I think you're spot on there. And we do forget he's 25. If we had facts, Kobe's on an airplane. God bless you, Kobe. We love you, but this would be a great time to know how old Sammy Guevara is. I'm gonna guess 25. If we're wrong, we'll figure that out later. But it's mid 20s, if not early 20s, and he's got plenty of time to develop. I think the move is from here. You got to take advantage of the heat that Sammy's garnered. As far as some of it might be, finger quotes, go home heat, X-Pac heat, if you want to call it that, from time to time. But I think Dominic Mysterio proved this weekend at Mania that is something you can actually take advantage of. If you can get the crowd to really hate you, then okay, right? That pop for Ray in the lowrider with Snoop was outstanding.
I feel like my spirit left my body for that match.
Wild.
So you remember when Dominic came out with the police escort? Yeah, but does Sammy have a Rhea Ripley? I don't know. I'm sure there's one on the roster, but
Tay Mello, Ty Conti.
She's not Rhea though.
I agree. She's not a Rhea, and I do think that Rhea has kind of carried Dom in a sense.
Big time.
And one of the biggest things I'm nervous about, that's actually an excellent point there, Carter, is, and I don't want to get too much into that topic because we've got some more fun ones, but I'm afraid that now that Rhea is the champion and Dom lost, where do you go now? We saw Finn Balor split open down the middle of his skull by a ladder. That's the leader of Judgment Day, so he's off TV for a bit until they get the skin back or however that works. And then from there, you got Damian Priest, who was essentially a lackey in multiple matches this week. Deserves better because I think Damian Priest is a world-class talent. But where do you go? I think it's a similar issue, right?
Two words, Clark. Bad Bunny. You got Bad Bunny to carry the rivalry. Just have him fill in the blanks until.
Well, and so that's the big thing is we've got this new huge. Speaking of huge announcements, you get Wembley for AEW, and then you go Puerto Rico for WWE. That's huge. And the return of the Latino World Order. they had the red, white, and blue Puerto Rican themed LWO shirts on sale at the Superstore, which was awesome. And that brings me to my next subject for you guys. We were all at Mania weekend. Did you guys make it down to the Superstore? No, no worries. Because I got to say, it was one of the craziest things I've ever done. You know, the convention center, you guys have both been because we're all locals, right? Yeah. Dude, this was a wrestling fan's dream. The way they set it up, everything about it, start to finish. They had red carpet up the steps to the convention center. Tickled me, and velvet ropes everywhere. It was hysterical. It was awesome. Just pumping entrance music in there with the loudest subwoofers you've ever heard in your life. Like,
wow.
They played Big Boss Man's theme when I walked in. I felt like the Big Boss Man. Like, I got through the security line and was like, boom, first day. It was one of the best experiences I had all of Mania week. But obviously you guys attended ROH and then Mania, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go one by one. What was you guys' favorite experience Mania week?
Mania, man. I mean, Mania day 2, the Gunther match. The Gunther match was you got 3 big bodies just freaking pounding each other. It was so good. You know, we all know how good Gunther is, and just the fact that the whole NXT Triple H thing, that this was a homegrown guy. He's like one of the best guy, old school wrestler, amazing talker. To see him on that stage, that to me beats everything. But it's hard to pinpoint one thing. The weekend was so good. I also one thing I did, I went to DDT on Thursday too, and I loved GCW's Bloodsport. That was one of my favorite things. I love the unification of pro wrestling and MMA. And GCW's Bloodsport is where there is no line. It's like you can't tell what's real and what's fake. And I absolutely love that. So I mean, but in terms of live experience, it's tough to beat that stage and just so many wrestling fans in such a big stadium. It was amazing. I mean, me and Lance were texting for 2 or 3 days after. We're like, that was like the best experience of our life. It was like unbeatable. Like, it was just so incredible, like, to have that many wrestling fans, and as a long-time wrestling fans, to see the sport or sport entertainment in this place right now in the world where so many people from the outside are looking at us. It's I love being here. You know, we're not booger eaters anymore, as Colin Cowherd might say. You know, we're worth $9 billion. So
Colin deserves that one, and I loved every single thing you said. Although one thing, totally not your fault. I didn't give you the heads up, but we don't use the F word here at Wrestling Republic. It's predetermined.
Oh, yes, predetermined.
Nothing's fake, baby. I'm kidding.
Oh, no,
kidding, but totally serious. Mackie, what was your favorite moment of the weekend?
I mean, the whole thing was unbelievable. I mean, it was straight up a movie. It was one of the best experiences of my life. Like Carter said, it was a core memory unlocked for me. It was just from start to finish. I mean, ROH was incredible, but both nights of Mania have to take it. I want to say something different, but the 3-man match was probably my favorite. Absolutely loved Charlotte versus Ripley. I mean, that was special. And you can't get away from how incredible Seth Rollins' entrance was, and him beating Paul was special as well. But just it was just a spectacle, you know, 81,000 a night, over 160,000 across 2 days, the biggest Mania ever. The stage was so Hollywood. It was incredible. Snoop Dogg, I mean, that's got to be way up there, the Snoop Dogg aspect of it and how he was in there. And The Miz got his ass kicked 3 times. I love that as well. But I know you said one thing, but I just have to throw out there that this was top to bottom, just the best weekend ever.
I'm so with you, and I love what both of you said about it there. But Lance, Mackie, what you were saying there too, like, spot on. Logan Paul somehow didn't manage to steal the show, but the match that's night 1. It's so funny in hindsight to think about it. Like, it is really hard to pinpoint a single moment. You know, I was laughing, and like, to be completely honest, I think my favorite moment of the weekend is I bought an LA street dog on the way out of night 2. And that was where I was probably the happiest I've ever been in my life.
Danger dogs, dude. Danger dogs.
And then we ordered pizza, and I was basically floating. It was like, it was one of those things where, yeah, you can't pinpoint one. The spectacle, Mackie, when you mentioned the spectacle, it's one of those things where the crowd was on fire.
Oh my God.
I mean, that main event, Roman and Cody. So if I really do have to pick one besides the dog, which was really good, shout out the street card I bought it from, $5. You kidding me? Easy money. Bacon wrap too, no less.
Yeah.
So
I
LA,
mean,
dude.
come on. It doesn't get any better. Gotta love LA. But I mean, that main event, Reigns and Cody finished the story. This is my favorite part about it, is they released all the gear that says finish the story. They told us some of the story. And I complained going in, and I go, they haven't told us the whole story. Unless you're a hardcore fan and you know the Dusty stuff, you know that Dusty got robbed of that WWF title back in the day. You know that means the world to Cody. You know that's in Kingdom. You listen to his entrance song. It's there's more than one royal family in professional wrestling. It's how it starts. And then I gained my freedom, built my kingdom, right? Like, I mean, it's in the song. And for him to fail the way he did, it's interesting. The line in Vegas actually flipped at the last minute. Cody was the favorite all the way in. It's the first time that they have allowed gambling on professional wrestling in America. It's actually been legal across the pond for a long time, but first time they've ever done it. And the line flipped at the last second to Roman. I wonder if it's sale related. I wonder if it's something else. But I actually think creatively it's brilliant because now they can tell the story. Now you have Rocky 2. And then he gets beat up by Brock on Raw. Now you got Rocky 2 at your fingertips. He's got to go get Rocky. He's got to fight his way back to the top. But that's, if you really want to finish the story, that's how they do it, right?
Yep.
I mean, I think long-term booking wise, and this is ironic, but WrestleMania 40 is in Philly. Who saw that coming?
Rocky, yeah.
I mean, you give him Rocky too. And right? I mean, he lost to a Samoan Spike. It wasn't just a spear.
You're making the Raw look a lot really good right now. You're making Monday's Raw look genius. Like,
I remember leaving. I was with the group of the guys too, with everybody else that was in town, and I knew you guys weren't going to that Raw, but we were there, and we were leaving. I remember everybody being a little bit nervous, and then all the Vince news is coming out and stuff. I remember thinking, I'm like, the Brock Cody thing is genius. It just is. It just is. And then you still have Solo having Roman's back. You didn't need the Usos to appear on this one. The Usos will be on SmackDown. They lost their belts, and how that plays into the Bloodline storyline is all going to be excellent. But I mean, Brock Cody, SummerSlam along the way to Cody Roman too. Now we're talking.
Yep.
In the long run, how do you guys think this next year plays out? And then this is the kicker though. Does Vince McMahon accidentally sabotage the whole thing by being outdated?
Anyone got any thoughts? Like that.
You ready, Mackie? Yeah.
I mean, is it Cody, Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40? Is it going to be Roman Reigns and The Rock? Because that's been teased so much. And coming back in the 40th being such a big milestone and all of that, like I have no idea, but you'd think it's got to be the American Nightmare again. And I Raw after got so much hate. And there were parts that I didn't like, but there was so much of it that I thought was so enjoyable and was actually kind of a nice little storyline that I thought could work. Same with Brock turning on Cody Rhodes. But I love the idea of the SummerSlam with Brock and Cody, and then kind of leading up to that whole thing. You can weave in the Usos, you can weave in all sorts of other talent members. So I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a wild year.
Oh, I'm with you. That is spot on too. What are your thoughts, Carter? Before we get out of here, we got 5 minutes left. Thank you guys for sticking with us.
Clark, I couldn't have. What you said is exactly what I was thinking. I mean, not exactly what I was thinking, but when I saw all the fans mad at Raw after this week's Monday Night Raw, I was just thinking in my head, I don't think, like you guys forget this is pro wrestling. This is a story. There's something going on, there's more to this. This is going to build up. I hope they do what you did, because I think, like I was saying with AEW and MJF, they're going to want to treat that guy right. With Cody Rhodes, he's way over. Everyone loves him. The WWE is eventually going to want to treat him right, or write him in the eyes of the fans, because if they just keep having him lose and lose and lose to Roman Reigns, they're going to lose a lot of steam. And I'm kind of curious, sorry if this is a little off topic, how the UFC is going to play into this, if we're going to see any cross promotion too, because I think that would really help out both companies.
Oh, I think that is an outstanding point, and we might have to come back on another daily for that one. No doubt, because us three could discuss that in circles for a long time. But I am so with both of you. You both made perfect points on that one. I mean, Mackie, you mentioning the Rock scenario. That, I think, is one of the keys to the operation. Is if Rock's involved, then what do you do with Cody?
Yeah.
And I think by allowing Roman to retain, you've left that on the table. And it's funny, I repeated a few times this week. Fans need to be sent home happy, but not necessarily because of the story. Because nowadays we watch movies that don't have happy endings and like them a lot. Happens all the time.
Yep.
Right? There's been enough. Now the Rocky story is amazing, and that plays from time to time. But every now and again, you're not in the mood for Rocky, and timing is whatever. But for this one, maybe holding off on finishing the story, because guess what? I bought a T-shirt. Finish the story. Get him, Cody. Well, it's still being told, and that's brilliant. It's genius. It's just simply good writing at the end of the day. And I think Philly 40, Karma, all of that, that's when you do it. And you put it on Cody and you do finish the story, but you tell the whole thing. Because I made a comment on this very podcast a week ago. I said, I love the story, but it hasn't been told. I know it. The hardcore fan base knows it. But the casual fan, the 160,000 that we mentioned that showed up at WrestleMania, they don't know it. Not yet. They don't know about Dusty. They don't know about everything. They don't know about, whatever it was, 1971. Where's facts and info when you need them? When Dusty got screwed out of the WWF title. You got to carry it for a half a second. And it was a house show thing. And yeah, I think if you are going to finish the story, tell all of it. And it was one of the smartest booking decisions I've seen in the history of WrestleMania main events, without a doubt. But before we get going, we only got a minute left, guys. Thank you so much for riding with us. I got to shout out Andrew Forka for the comment. You're the man. Guys, first broadcast together, first one I've ever done as producer and host. Not easy. I think we did some damage here today. I think we were on one, and I liked everything about it, and I had a blast. And so from all of us here at Wrestling Republic, Lanse Macke, Carter Crisp, Clark Taylor, all the guys that came in for Mania weekend. This is us signing off on the daily broadcast. We'll see y'all tomorrow. I will get that time posted at some point. That's my responsibility, but we'll have that ready to go. Thank you for everything.
Awesome. Thank you, Clark. Rock on.